Us are truly self-made. There's an expression in Argentina that goes, "Decime con quién andas." Hold on. I'm not even going to be able to say this correctly. "Decime con quién andas y te diré quién sos," which translates to, "Tell me who you spend time with and I'll tell you who you are," which is a little bit black and white. I'm not sure it's that black and white, but there is a level of truth in that, I think. So with that being said, here are 3 simple ideas that are changing my life, specifically on the topic of relationships. Why not? Considering the fact that I'm going through life and learning as I go, might as well share it with the world, right? And maybe I'll save some people some time in reaching these conclusions. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that I don't feel like is taught in school, which isn't right in my opinion. I mean, we learn how to do math, right? And I'm not trying to knock math specifically here, but we don't learn how to listen to ourselves or to develop the tools to better understand ourselves. And I think that's just fundamental to be able to lead a healthy, productive life, right? So some aspect of it feels a little bit backwards. Now, first, before diving into those 3 things that I wanted to talk about, I thought I would share a funny little awkward relationship related anecdote. I don't know, I don't do that enough, and why not? I realized recently I've gotten very philosophical and detached from reality with recent videos of mine, so I'm trying to lighten things up again, come back to earth. So let me know if you like this change of pace. All right, on to the anecdote, which by the way, I shouldn't be hyping this up. It's a terrible story. It's like, you're gonna see, it's pretty disappointing. Basically, I went on a date with a girl a couple of years ago, and we went bowling and all was going swell. We finished bowling and we were gathering our things, and I think I got distracted by something on my phone or something, because I remember looking up and seeing that the girl was already at the counter about to pay. And I had a kind of, not freak out moment, but I was like, oh no, I don't want to let her pay, and sort of overreacted in that moment. I don't know, I really wanted to pay because I invited her on the date. Like, I felt like it was my responsibility. So I grabbed my shit and I start running towards the counter. Oh my God. I shouldn't have done that. Certainly not in the rented bowling shoes that I was wearing, because I totally ran into like a table and an assortment of chairs and made an enormous racket. It honestly sounded like, I don't even know what, just this enormous crashing of metal and plastic. And I remember the girl and the person at the counter turned around like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. I think the worst part is that I think maybe knew what I was trying to do. Oh God. That should be proof enough that I am also figuring out how to navigate relationships and whatnot, and can look also about my personal life as I navigate change, if you will. Specifically about relationships, my relationships, the people in my life, how I want to interact with people and who I want to interact with. I think a lot of us really like the idea of being independent, right, and not relying on other people, but that's just not the world that we live in. I think we're all actually quite dependent on our networks, on our connections, on the people that we know, and none of us are truly self-made. There's an expression in Argentina that goes, "Decime con quién andas." Hold on. I'm not even going to be able to say this correctly. "Decime con quién andas y te diré quién sos," which translates to, "Tell me who you spend time with and I'll tell you who you are," which is a little bit black and white. I'm not sure it's that black and white, but there is a level of truth in that, I think. So with that being said, here are 3 simple ideas that are changing my life, specifically on the topic of relationships. Why not? Considering the fact that I'm going through life and learning as I go, might as well share it with the world, right? And maybe I'll save some people some time in reaching these conclusions. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that I don't feel like is taught in school, which isn't right in my opinion. I mean, we learn how to do math, right? And I'm not trying to knock math specifically here, but we don't learn how to listen to ourselves or to develop the tools to better understand ourselves. And I think that's just fundamental to be able to lead a healthy, productive life, right? So some aspect of it feels a little bit backwards. Now, first, before diving into those 3 things that I wanted to talk about. I thought I would share a funny little awkward relationship related anecdote. I don't know, I don't do that enough, and why not? I realized recently I've gotten very philosophical and detached from reality with recent videos of mine, so I'm trying to lighten things up again, come back to earth. So let me know if you like this change of pace. All right, on to the anecdote, which, by the way, I shouldn't be hyping this up. It's a terrible story. It's like, you're gonna see, it's pretty disappointing. Basically, I went on a date with a girl a couple of years ago, and we went bowling, and all was going swell. We finished bowling, and we were gathering our things, and I think I got distracted by something on my phone or something, because I remember looking up and seeing that the girl was already at the counter about to pay. And I had a kind of, not freak out moment, but I was like, oh no, I don't want to let her pay, and sort of overreacted in that moment. I don't know, I really wanted to pay because I invited her on the date. Like, I felt like it was my responsibility. So I grabbed my shit and I start running towards the counter. Oh my God. I shouldn't have done that. Certainly not in the rented bowling shoes that I was wearing, because I totally ran into like a table and an assortment of chairs and made an enormous racket. It honestly sounded like, I don't even know what, just this enormous crashing of metal and plastic. And I remember the girl and the person at the counter turned around like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. I think the worst part is that she, I think maybe knew what I was trying to do. Oh God. That should be proof enough that I am also figuring out how to navigate relationships and whatnot, and can look like a real dummy sometimes. Okay, anyway, why don't we move on with this video? People will remember how you made them feel. This is actually much more eloquently put by an incredible poet, whose quote I will actually read to you right now, because it's just more eloquently put than I could ever put it myself. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel, which are words from Maya Angelou. Let me first say that I find this idea really beautiful, and I think at some level it's actually pretty intuitive. I think it just makes sense, but it's one thing to know that and another to kind of go through life acting on that, being just really aware of that. It's a reminder to not get completely lost in the details, and between content and intent, which are both very important, intent is the more important of the two. Without the intent, the content is empty. And that has helped me realize that I have had relationships in my life where all the right things are being said, all the right things are being done, but I never felt heard, and I never felt good. People need to feel heard. They need to feel understood. I find this to be an idea that makes me feel more connected to other people. In many ways, like reincarnation. Allow me to explain. I think reincarnation is a really beautiful idea. And even if you don't believe it, even if it's not the case, right? Let's just pretend for a second we don't reincarnate. The idea, the concept of coming back to Earth in different bodies, in different times throughout history, as different human beings, it makes me feel connected to other human beings in life, in that this is not just about me. And so coming back to the original idea here, just keeping in mind that people will remember how you made them feel shifts, I feel like, my energy and how the effort that I make in how I interact with people. It's also the single best argument I could give for why it's not worth it to be an asshole. Stay in your lane. I find I am learning over and over again that it is a massive waste of time and energy to try and change other people. For starters, if somebody doesn't want to change or isn't ready to change, there's just no way to make that change happen. It's just not, it's a waste of time. It's not possible. And more fundamentally, it's not your job. I feel like that is not the reason why I'm here on this earth. Like I said, I'm speaking about all this in the present tense because this is not a lesson that I feel like I have fully learned. I've realized that this is the source of so many of my own problems, really. My inability to just stick to my own shit, to stay in my own lane. In fact, I actually associate a feeling of relief to that moment where I remember, oh yeah, unless somebody's asking for it, my time and energy is best used, best invested in focusing on myself. The people that I think have had the biggest impact on me are not people that are concerned with changing my opinions or changing who I am, but rather focus entirely on putting out an amazing example. I was reluctant in many ways to try a plant-based diet last year, even just for 30 days. And this was, I think, because of a fear of judgment and just a general lack of understanding. And it wasn't the most militant vegans out there that convinced me or changed my mind. Really, it was the most calm, kind-hearted vegans that were putting out a lot of information and willing to answer my questions without judgment that opened the door for me to testing it out. Now, for those of you curious, and this is not fully related to this video, but I'll just address it really quickly. I'm not plant-based anymore, but it did have a lasting impact in that I consume a lot less animal-based products than I used to. A lot of people keep using words to describe me that I don't like very much, like influencer. But if I am an influencer now, take it from an influencer that trying to change or save people is a waste of time, in my opinion. I think it's a much better use of your time to focus on yourself. There's a lot less tension in my life, really, and in my relationships when I don't tell people what to believe, how to eat, how to live their lives. I suspect I will spend my entire life learning and relearning this lesson. Relationships always have giving and taking, right? But there's different kinds of giving and taking. The most important relationship that you have in life is with yourself. This, I find, is a really difficult one. What I've learned so far is that you'll have an awfully hard time finding people that will value you as a person the way you should be valued if you do not value yourself. I've spoken a little bit about it before, but I haven't always been the most open to relationships in my life. And looking back, I can say that this has come from not always having the best relationship with myself. I can only be open to other people to the extent to which I'm open to myself. Understanding this has radically changed my views about myself as I realize that I am less destructive and capable of greater generosity when I feel solid, when I take care of myself. I recognize that I say these kinds of things a lot, relating to feelings and internal exploration and whatnot. But I talk about these things so often because I feel like when you go out into the world, these are things that are so rarely explicitly spoken about. And instead, oh God, it's just so confusing going out into the world without that sort of like internal basis of understanding. Those are some of my thoughts on relationships inspired by this year and where I'm at in life right now. Relationships are tricky, they're messy, and I fully expect to be returning to these lessons over and over again well into the future. I'd love to hear what you think on this subject. A lot of you have left very insightful, very interesting comments on previous videos of mine, for which I am very grateful. So thank you very much. It does help with the algorithms, full transparency. So think about that too. If you have nothing profound to say, I would love to see funny anecdotes from dates gone wrong, if you're willing to share. This video is sponsored by Audible, which I use on a daily basis. Audiobooks are my drug of choice. I'm currently listening to Alan Watts for the first time ever, if you can believe that, outside of lo-fi music. Right now I'm listening to Out of Your Mind, which is a collection of his teaching sessions, and it's amazing. I don't know what to tell you. I cannot recommend it enough. It is mind expanding, like seriously. I really like listening to smart people articulate and connect ideas. I think that's a great way to further develop the ability to do the same thing. Audible has a massive selection. I really like the app. I find it all just very convenient, to be honest. What a time to be alive. So you can start listening right now with a 30-day Audible trial where you can pick one audiobook and 2 Audible originals completely free. Visit audible.com/NathanielDrew or text Nathaniel Drew to 500-500. The link is also in the description. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring this video. And thank you for watching.
Anyway, the view up here is kind of unreal. We're currently up in La Zagaleta. I've heard about this villa, so I'm really glad I get to see it. Maybe we should see how their plumbing is, if it's correct.
Yeah, I'm ready.
How to make yourself real unhappy with your pretty decent house.
Wow, wow, wow. Do you guys know what Cullinan means? It's the biggest diamond that has ever been found.
Ah, yeah,
so.
actually I knew that because
From-
the Rolls-Royce Cullinan was
Exactly.
based.
Wow, wow, wow.
This report here, we're going to enter through this, which could be the main door, but it's just the door from the small garage. And then we're going to show you the main entrance a bit later.
So welcome to the staff kitchen.
This is the staff kitchen.
Yes.
I could actually work here as a chef.
This episode was sponsored by KiwiCo. More about them at the end of the show. Until recently, half the universe was missing, or hidden, or just undetected. And no, I'm not talking about dark matter or dark energy, which make up 27 and 68% of our universe respectively. No, I'm talking about normal, ordinary matter, which makes up you and me and the planets and stars and nebulae and basically everything you can see. And since most of this stuff is made of protons and neutrons, which are forms of baryons, this has been known as the missing baryon problem. We expect the universe to be made up of 5% baryonic matter, but when we go looking, we only find 2.5%. Now, the first question you're probably asking is, why should we expect the universe to be 5% ordinary baryonic matter in the first place? The answer is because with that density, we can explain the relative abundances of different elements that we observe in the universe, specifically the ratio of deuterium to hydrogen to helium. In the beginning, like right after the Big Bang, there were all of these neutrons and protons whizzing around. It was incredibly hot, and there was tons of radiation. The universe was radiation dominated. But as the universe expanded, it cooled to the point where protons and neutrons could start fusing together. A particularly stable nucleus to form would be helium-4, made of 2 neutrons and 2 protons. The problem was, to form helium-4, you first have to form deuterium, 1 proton and 1 neutron. And this is a less stable nucleus, and as quickly as it formed, it would get smashed apart. But by about 10 seconds after the Big Bang, the universe had cooled sufficiently that deuterium could form, and as soon as it did, it would rapidly fuse into helium. The rate at which this happened depended on the density of matter in the early universe. The higher the density, the faster this fusion could occur. Then, by 20 minutes after the Big Bang, the temperature had dropped low enough that fusion could no longer occur. And so at this point, the elemental abundances were locked in, like a snapshot of this moment. There was 75% hydrogen and 25% helium by mass, which is basically still what we observe in the universe today. Of the hydrogen nuclei, 26 out of every million were deuterium. What's amazing about deuterium is that it's stable, it doesn't decay, and there are no known processes that can produce it in significant quantities since the Big Bang. And that means virtually all the deuterium in the universe today, including the 1 out of every 6,000 hydrogen atoms in tap water, was created not in stars, but in the first 20 minutes after the Big Bang. When we look deep into space, the oldest light we can see is the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, which has been traveling through the universe unimpeded since about 400,000 years after the Big Bang. And so we can literally count up those photons and work out the density of radiation right after the Big Bang. And using the value of 26 deuterium nuclei per million hydrogen nuclei, well, we can work out the ratio of baryonic matter to photons. And that is how we work out that there should be about 5% baryonic matter in the universe. So in the late 1990s, scientists went looking for all this baryonic matter. It was a census of sorts. They added up all of the planets and stars and black holes, galaxies, dust clouds, gas, basically everything you can see or infer exists using a telescope. And what they found is that everything that I normally think of as the actual stuff in our universe, it only makes up barely 20% of all the baryonic matter. So where is the rest? Well, not all ordinary matter is glowing brightly or is illuminated by nearby stars. It's not dark matter, but it is ordinary matter that is just in darkness. And so if you want to find those baryons, well, one way is to use a backlight, a bright source of light very far away, and that also means in the very early universe. And quasars are the perfect backlight. Their luminosity can be thousands of times that of whole galaxies. The light comes from the accretion disk of a supermassive black hole at the center of an early galaxy, as it engulfs all this matter. And since it is so distant, the light we receive from quasars is heavily redshifted. For example, the light emitted when a hydrogen atom goes from its first excited state to its ground state, the Lyman alpha transition, it produces ultraviolet light of around 121.6 nanometers in a lab. But from a quasar, it can be observed as a peak in their spectrum at over 560 nanometers. That is nanometers in a lab. But from a quasar,
with the algorithms, full transparency, so think about that too. If you have nothing profound to say, I would love to see funny anecdotes from dates gone wrong, if you're willing to share. This video is sponsored by Audible, which I use on a daily basis. Audiobooks are my drug of choice. I'm currently listening to Alan Watts for the first time ever, if you can believe that, outside of lo-fi music. Right now I'm listening to Out of Your Mind, which is a collection of his teaching sessions, and it's
Thanks to KiwiCo for sponsoring this video. Get him! Get him! Oh, hey! I'm not gonna actually throw that. You okay, Nintendo? Right there? Is that good? Good? All right. I was super addicted to video games my entire childhood, and here's what happened. It shaped who I am, and I like who I am. I think video games can be part of a healthy lifestyle. True, as I got older, I stopped playing them so much because this feeling developed when I played them. I don't know where it came from. And that feeling is guilt. I know it's stupid to feel guilty to enjoy something that you love as long as you're not harming yourself or someone else. Unless they want to be harmed. The feeling of guilt never happened when I was a kid when I played way more. Why now? I'm making this video to figure that out and to hopefully figure out how I can have a more healthy relationship with a thing I love. Cannibalism. Video games.
Are we the baddies?
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
If you do a Google, you'll find lots of studies that show that video games are good or bad. I'm not going to go through all of them. I got some video games to play later. But after reading a lot of the videos are the baddies arguments, I think it all boils down to this. Ways video games might be bad for you. You could be doing other things instead. With your money, with your time, with your relationships, with thoughts, energy, and your body. And that's pretty much it. There's a debate about whether video games will cause certain undesirable traits. Depression, aggression, obsession by Calvin Klein. I'm just meshing. But that's the whole correlation versus causation debate. Is it video games that lead to this trait, or is it the trait that leads to the video game? Chicken or the egg? Is a hot dog a sandwich? That one doesn't apply, but it's interesting. But to go back to doing other things instead, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. You could be building a career, you could be exercising. Yeah, video games might be bad if you don't moderate, which is true about anything. What you can do, you can overdo. Everything in moderation. I believe it was Nietzsche who said, maybe set a maximum 2 or 3 days at a time in Stardew Valley, unless you've got a lot of iridium sprinklers and you don't have to water everything all the time. Then maybe add a day or two. By the way, do you have a starred void salmon yet? I can't find them, but I'm trying to do it without Googling it. So I guess don't tell me. I'll find it. I'm Frederick Nietzsche. Also, saying you could have done something better with your time denies the actual possible benefits of video games, which I'll talk about later. Also, if you do anything, read a book, learn some crap, build something, draw something, listen to music, you will always could have done something else instead. Fwibmo, forever will be missing out. One thing though, video games are uniquely immersive. I'm more likely to lose track of time playing video games than doing other things, except for maybe sleeping. You guys should have seen the dream I recently had. The graphics were so good. The writing was a bit artsy and the control didn't make a lot of sense when I tried to run, but it was still mostly good. I'll stream it next time. Video games is a place to be. Video games. Living is the life for me. Now then, it is time to regale you with my lifetime video game journey to establish CRED, which is short for incredibly addicted to video games in my past. I remember the first home console video game I ever played. When I was a wee lad, my dad brought home this, the Atari 2600, because pre-year 2000, numbers that began with 2
I think one of the most attractive qualities that a person can have is a deep sense of self-confidence. There's something energetic about it that can make literally anybody more attractive. Like, this goes beyond anything that you could potentially wear, any sort of haircut, any sort of physical change that you can make to yourself. This goes way beyond that. This is something that I believe you can feel, really, like, again, on an energy level. And it's something that you can sense. When somebody is comfortable in their own skin, you can feel it. Skill definitely plays a part, but have you ever seen somebody dance so committedly that it doesn't even matter what they're doing? You're vibing with it, you know, you're connecting with them. There's an elusive beauty to that. There's something amazing about that. However, this is obviously a very elusive feeling for a lot of us. I'm regularly amazed by my own psychology, in that it feels sometimes, or oftentimes, like there are two separate Nathans. There's the ballsy, confident Nathan and insecure Nathan. And they feel in many ways like two completely different people. And yet they aren't, I guess. And that is one of the fascinating things about being a human being, right? You can be contradictory things. So talking about this always makes me think of a section in, I just looked it up, I guess it was in the Half-Blood Prince from the Harry Potter series, where Harry basically pretends to give Ron a potion, Felix Felicis, I believe it was called, Felix Felicis. Wait, hold on. Apparently this potion gives you good luck, okay? And Harry pretended to give it to Ron, and it worked as a placebo, and that boosted his confidence, and it worked. It helped him play better at Quidditch. I think that was very intentionally written that way. It's a very, very clear example of the psychology at play. This is funny for me to talk about because I'm really not like a huge Potterhead. I enjoyed the books, but I read them like probably 15 years ago. But I think this is like the best example that I can think of. It really embodies what I'm trying to articulate here. And I think we must all find this very delicate balance between external things that help boost confidence, that can work, and something deeper, something internal. There are some people that radiate a level of well-being, I suppose, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what they're wearing. And that is something that really interests me. I guess, for lack of a better way of wording things, I'm interested in living more like ballsy Nathan, right? And not so much like insecure Nathan. I'm not here to give advice, but my current conclusions are that taking action is good for me. I already spend more than enough time in my own head. There's a part of me that knows that people from an outside perspective do not see me the same way that I see me. And they're definitely not as obsessed with little inconsequential details as I am. Do I look like I'm sweating like a pig?
No, you look good.
Okay, so glasses are off because if I wear my glasses right here, I find the reflection from the windows a little bit distracting, so they're off. I took a couple of days to really think about and reflect on where I believe my own self-confidence comes from, pinpointing it as concretely as possible so that this can be useful to anybody watching. I think it's a very abstract topic, so it's a little bit difficult to do that. None of this is scientific. I'm sure an expert on this subject could give a much more precise definition. Let me remind you, you are watching a random dude on the internet, but regardless, I do want to share. I do want to share where I think this comes from for me. Now, I think there are multiple pieces that come together to make this possible, and the first for me is belief. It's tricky using this word actually, because if you look up the definition of belief, it is trust or confidence in something or someone. And if you look up the definition of confidence, many dictionaries use the word belief in the definition. So we kind of have a problem here. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I think it's safe to say that these are two concepts that are deeply intertwined and feed off of each other. Now, this is entirely just my opinion here, but there's something about belief that feels deeper than confidence. And when I say self-confidence stems from my belief, I'm talking about belief in my abilities, which can look like many different things, including, quite simply, my ability to solve problems in a way that's difficult to articulate fully. I think this can only come from experience, from doing, from demystifying. And belief goes beyond just my own abilities, right? It can be belief in ideas and in systems, or if you don't believe in the system that you find yourself in, belief that there's another way, another system. It's about finding your language. And like I said, belief and confidence are interconnected, right? And they feed off of each other. And so in a way, we have to find ways to trick ourselves into these cycles that can build and grow. Now, the other major element that I can think of, for me personally, beyond belief, that is necessary in having a sense of, or building a sense of self-confidence, is well-being, which I can say for me boils down to the ability to accept myself, accept my body, accept the person that I am. Definitely easier said than done. This is the basis from which you can build. And once again, very interestingly, I find that for me to have a sense of well-being, I also must have a sense of belief, a sense of confidence already. And so the tricky thing about all of this is that it's all already connected, and there isn't an easy starting point. I think we're all looking for, in some form or another, the potion, Felix Felicis, right? The potion that Ron thought he drank. And this can look like many different things in the world that we live in. It can look like alcohol. It can look like clothing that you wear. It can look like so many things. You don't need me to list off all the examples. And there are plenty of people out there more than happy to sell you the cosmetic solution to your insecurities or the product to solve your deficiencies. But if these things just worked and solve the problem, there wouldn't be this sustaining demand that we so clearly see. My takeaways from this line of thinking are that if I were looking to boost my self-confidence, I would look at my life in terms of well-being and belief. Forget about confidence for a second. In a way, I think confidence is really just a byproduct. It is the result of many other things. I regularly ask myself a couple of simple questions because I too am trying to figure this out as much as any of you. I ask myself, what are the things contributing to or taking away from a sense of belief in my life, in my mission, in my projects, in my ideas? And what are the things contributing to and taking away from a sense of well-being in my life and the relationship that I have with myself, with how I feel in my own skin? And while so many of us get lost in that blind pursuit of external solutions to our insecurities, our feelings of insecurity, which is a trap that I fall into as much as anybody else, I do try to remind myself to come back to a place of investing instead in the intrinsic things that will boost my own sense of well-being and belief in my own values. What do you think? addicted to these castles. Like, what the hell?
So when I first got into self-improvement, I had really bad social anxiety. Talking to somebody I didn't know very well, especially if they were a girl, was really difficult for me. Even carrying on a basic human conversation was something that I didn't really know how to do very well. I'd always be stuck in my head thinking about what I was going to say next and worrying about whether they were impressed with me. And I also didn't have very many friends. People didn't really invite me anywhere. So I started searching on Reddit for answers, you know, kind of lurking through self-improvement subreddits like I used to do quite a bit back in the day. And there was a book recommendation that kept on coming up in every single self-improvement subreddit that I looked at. It seemed to be everyone's go-to book they would recommend for people struggling with social anxiety or struggling with being able to maintain a basic conversation. And that book was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale
Learn from the past. Look to the future. Speak your mind. Never let your guard down.
All right, so this is the Alienware M15 R3. It's the new one for 2020. And when they first announced this, I kind of dismissed it. I didn't think it was like a big refresh. It looks so similar to last year's model. I just kind of went under the radar for me. But having gotten it in, I realized there's a lot of stuff that they've changed under the hood, and we'll talk about them. Now, my story with last year's model, the R2, this was a device that I thought was a pretty good performer, very thin for an Alienware device, very pretty, but I felt like thermally this wasn't the best thing out there, right? I felt like it wasn't super competitive in terms of just best performance unless you tweaked it and, you know, undervolted it and repasted it and stuff that's more advanced. So I just never really recommended this thing openly from last year's model. It did look really good though. They've addressed a lot of stuff this year. Let's start off with the exterior. This wasn't a problem with last year's model, but they've actually changed it. This is now a smooth, like hard finish. Last year's model had like a soft touch finish to it. I really like this material, but my impression was that this was something that could get dirty easily. Like if you had, I don't know, Cheetos covered fingers, or if you had dirty fingers and you handled a white laptop with a soft touch finish, it would invariably smudge or just stain this material. This feels much more stain and smudge resistant, but it's not as inviting to use. Like the top deck as well, like the keyboard area and the top surface and the bottom panel are all refinished. They're no longer soft touch, but it still looks really good. Now, another thing they've changed this year is the trim around the panel. So it's gonna be hard to see in this shot. I'll do some pickups, but you can see that they've added this rubber trim around the edge of the screen. I think it serves two purposes. One is that when you open and close the device, it's a bit just, you know, there's less of an impact when you close the lid. It's more of like a softer close versus the old one. It's more of like a louder snap versus, right? It's subtle, but there is a difference. But secondly, I also think that it serves to reinforce the actual bezel around the screen. So on last year's model, the trim or the bezel, if you pushed it, you could kind of see it wobbling around a bit. There wasn't a ton of play, but it was noticeable. But this year is just a sturdier trim. It's just everything seems to be adhered a little bit tighter. But the bezel itself is still made with that shiny or glossy plastic, which I don't personally love. Now, another thing I noticed is that the screen is easier to open with one hand. Not everyone cares about this stuff, but for the people that do, I think they tweaked the hinge tension just a little bit so that you can do this if you care for it. Okay, another thing they've changed this year is the speaker setup. So last year's models, the R2s, they had bottom firing speakers only. They would just blast out from the bottom of the laptop and
In order to stop my father, we need to infiltrate the city itself. And that means passing through the Robodrome.
What a matchup we've got tonight, folks! Sparks are gonna fly! Wait, what's this? Some surface dwellers have unwittingly stumbled into the arena! A word of caution to
It's always good to have a space where we can feel focused, productive, free of mess and clutter so that we can complete what we set out to do and enjoy our work at the same time. Hi friends, my name is Mike Watt, and in this video I'll guide you through all the steps I took to make my office a transformative workspace that I love working at and give you a tour of my studio. And hopefully this will give you some ideas for your setup and inspire you as well. So I'm a full-time creator on YouTube and Instagram, and I really needed to optimize this space for my creative needs. My goal is to have a workspace that's functional, highly configurable, clean, and minimal at the same time, and it's prioritized in that order. The room I work in is actually quite small, so a lot of thinking went into planning this. Originally, the room I moved into was a light green color. I painted the walls a dark black blue color. I've used it in the past, so I painted the whole room the same color because I liked it so much. This color really gives my room a very bold and clean look at the same time. Next up, I decided to get some sound foam on my wall because I was hearing a lot of reverb in my videos. So I got some pyramid pattern foam tiles from Amazon, and it was quite easy to install with double-sided tape. This addition really gave my room more of a studio look and made my setup more unique, especially when I had my background light shooting up against it. Now next on the list was the foundation of my workspace, the desk. As a tech reviewer, I wanted a sturdy and reliable desk that I could move up and down to shoot my products on the desk itself. So after a lot of research, I went with Autonomous, and I'm using their Smart Desk 2. I really like it because it has 4 configurable settings and it goes up and down really quickly with minimum wobble while having all my computer stuff and product stuff on the table. It really speeds up my filming when I can just adjust the desk height and get different angles instead of adjusting my tripod. Besides that, it's always good to be able to stand up to work from time to time. Moving along to the juicy part of things, this is my ultimate Mac Mini setup that I use for all my video editing and gaming needs. So I recently got my Mac Mini this year. The specs are on the screen. I bought it with 8 gigs of RAM and upgraded it myself to 32 gigs of RAM, so I saved a ton of money. I'm also using a 2-bay external hard drive by TerraMaster that's holding 4 terabytes in each bay. This is surprisingly fast enough so that I can edit straight from it. Now some of you might be like, wait, the Mac Mini doesn't have a graphics card in it, so how can you edit video? This is where this beast comes in. This is Razer Core X. It's an external GPU. It's housing the RX 580 graphics card inside. With this combination, I noticed that the rendering and exporting times was cut in half compared to my MacBook Pro that I was using before. The processor on this Mini is just that much faster. By the way, this setup would not be complete without this Hitachi Mac Mini Hub. This is connected to the back of the Mac Mini and it has a built-in fan to cool it off. It features all the USB ports in the front, so it's super simple to offload all my SD cards and connect my other devices to it without having to try to guess where the ports are in the back of the Mac Mini. As for monitors, I'm using BenQ's ultra-wide 35-inch curved screen. I really love it. I just can't go back to a normal sized monitor anymore. This is like 3 screens in one. I can script, research, and have another window for YouTube or Netflix at the same time. And man, editing has been a lot easier with longer timelines. There's a lot less scrolling, I can see more information, and I just don't have to squint anymore. So I guess it's better for my eyes. And if I really wanted to use another monitor, I could use my iPad. I'm just kidding, I don't really do this because I just wanted to flex my 12.9-inch iPad because it's one of my most important tools. I use the Mac Mini mainly to do the heavy lifting work, but when I want to handwrite my notes, to brainstorm my video ideas, or use it as a laptop when I go out, this is my go-to device. I use it every day and I love it. I needed a keyboard that I can easily switch between my Mac Mini and my iPad, so I found the Keychron K2 to be the best solution. I can switch between 3 Bluetooth devices with the press of a button. This is the aluminum version with the RGB lights. I love this keyboard as well because it really adds to the look of my setup, and using the clicky mechanical keys has been a joy. Typing on it is almost addicting. The only thing is that the height of the keyboard is a bit high, so I'm using a wrist rest by Sanwa that I got on Amazon. It's a really soft and cool gel, so it's super comfortable to use. I'm currently using the Logitech Ergo for editing and the Logitech G503 for gaming. I love this combination because they're super comfortable to use for a long period of time, and most importantly, you can customize all the buttons for specific applications on both mouses. So when I'm editing on Final Cut Pro, I don't need to move my right hand to use the keyboard. I can cut away clips and zoom in and out of my timeline like a ninja with just my mouse. So this is definitely a must-have for me when I'm editing. Under my keyboard and mouse, I'm using a textured desk mat by Hitachi. It has a soft surface for me to rest my devices on, it protects my desk, and visually, it serves as a contrast to the dark finish of my desk, creating a dedicated space for the items on it. For music, podcasts, and videos, I'm using the Soundcore Bluetooth wireless speaker by the side of my window. I put it there so that I can keep it off my desk to free up more space. And by placing my desk near the window, I get a lot of natural light, which is really refreshing. For headphones, I'm using the Bose Noise Cancelling 700. They're placed on a simple aluminum stand by Hitachi, and these headphones give me the cleanest sound and are the most comfortable for me. I can wear them for hours on end while I'm editing and for the times I really need to focus on my work. And as you guys might know, I review a lot of true wireless earbuds, so right now I'm switching between these three. They're always on my desk for me to listen to and test. I'm usually at my desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, so ergonomics is key, and I had to invest in a few things to keep me comfortable. A good chair, a footrest, monitor stand, and backlighting. The chair was probably the most important thing. I'm using the Secretlab Omega chair. It's really comfortable to sit in, and the material makes it look very minimal and premium at the same time, matching my setup quite well. It's adjustable in all the right places, and most importantly, when I'm super lazy, I can turn my setup into a zero gravity chair to relieve all the pressure from my back so that I can just relax and game. I'm using a monitor arm by Vivo. It raises my monitor to a good height, and it really helps me maintain a good posture by looking up. Other than ergonomics, the monitor stand really helps me to clear up a lot of space on the desk so that I can have all this computer stuff here and still have it look clean and not too cluttered. As for lights, I actually tied a LifeX light bulb to the back of my monitor arm behind my screen so that it's hidden. This way, it acts as backlight to the items below and reduces my eye strain. I also found some RGB lights on Amazon by Govee, and I installed them on the edge of my desk to add more flair to the setup with a simple press of a button. To keep a clean looking space, the key is to hide all the cables. So I did that by getting a cable tray that's made for my desk and organize all the cables into that and use some adhesive hooks to guide the wires out to my printer and outlets. For charging, I'm using a wireless power base by Nomad. This is one of my favorite pieces because it's made of real walnut and it's something that really complements the look that I'm going for. On the side of my desk, I have a cable that's hidden away that's connected to it. I pull it out whenever I need to charge something and hide it away when I don't need it to keep a clean look. Before I move into how I transform this office into a filming studio, I know some of you guys are like, oh my god, all this stuff is so expensive. Of course you can have a nice desk setup if you used your dad's money or if you're rich kind of thing, but really no. I started this whole desk setup journey like 5 years ago and I built it step by step. Everything that I've got here, I bought with my own money or acquired from making this YouTube channel. Previously, I was an accountant before, so I had no idea about any of this filming stuff. I learned it all by myself. So if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Especially with the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with a ton of classes for you to upgrade and learn new skills. What's awesome about Skillshare and their huge variety of classes and tutorials is that you can learn them all at your own pace. As you might know, I've been working really hard to take my photography to the next level on Instagram. So I've been taking classes from Brandon Wolfel. He shares his own creation process step by step, how he plans, shoots, and edits his photos to tell a good story on social media, and some shooting techniques which I'm super excited to apply to my own work. Skillshare is super affordable with an annual subscription that costs less than $10 a month. And what's awesome is that because they are sponsoring this video today, I'm actually able to give 1,000 of my subscribers 2 months of premium membership completely for free. All you gotta do is to join.
Hello friends, this is Yuom. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm sharing what's next after material decluttering and simplifying. And I'll be diving deep into my next step of emotional decluttering and letting go of the ego through advanced minimalism. Because I have gone through close to 6 years of minimalism and also all the ups and downs, including the burnout, the perfectionism trap, and common beginner's block, I now feel that I have the proper background and resources to shed some light on where my obsession to material accumulation originates from. And I have the understanding of what really needs to be decluttered more than anything at this stage of my life. So my current focus is to finally invest in letting go of the mental construct, the programming that brought about my shopping addiction and excessive accumulation many years ago. So to me, advanced minimalism is in itself an expression of life, meaning there is no separation between the practice and my own life, because I no longer approach minimalism selectively as a temporary phase. I feel that nowadays my life is the effortless demonstration of letting go, of surrendering and releasing the unnecessary, the things that really deplete life energy and drain my vitality. The practice in my own life situation that may differ from other practitioners is about letting go and surrendering, even when I wake up, when I eat, when I speak, and even when I think and do day-to-day things. And I do this consistent letting go as much as possible, but I also focus on gentleness and a slow-paced approach. The first step in the process of lifelong decluttering is first rising to consciousness, which to me is about overcoming my self-denial by first and foremost becoming aware of my thoughts. And the method of raising one's consciousness level is, I think, a more of a bite-sized approach and less about suddenly achieving full awakening. And I feel that awareness becomes more and more available when I, as much as I can, continuously on an everyday basis, choose to face my thoughts without deception, without self-justification, and without the need for further manipulation. So by first and foremost rising to consciousness, or attempting to rise to consciousness within my capacity, I feel that a new awareness is born.
Hey everyone, in this video we're meeting Rob Greenfield, an extreme minimalist living with only 47 possessions. Everything he owns he's either wearing or carrying in his backpack. In this video he's going to show us what those 47 items are, and he's also going to share how and why he's living this lifestyle. So let's go meet up with him and find out more.
As of today, I own about 47 possessions. I will be the first one to say that my life is extreme, and it is extreme on purpose. About 10 years ago, I was living what I considered to be a pretty typical American lifestyle. In fact, my goal at the time, in my early 20s, was to be a millionaire by the time that I turned 30 years old. And I realized that I wanted to change my life. I wanted to live in a way where my actions were in alignment with my beliefs, and that set me down this journey of, from then to now, which is almost 10 years of having an incredible amount of stuff, closets full of stuff, to now just having under 50 possessions to my name. I got rid of my bank account, I cut up my social security card, and I cut up my driver's license, and I had gotten rid of my car a few years before that. This minimalism for me, it's partially about living the life that I want, but it's also a statement. It's about getting people to question their stuff. Do they need as much stuff as they think they do in order to live a happy, healthy, purposeful life? So I'm going to show you the possessions that I have right now. Today I have about 47 possessions, and that number fluctuates. And one thing I want to say is that it's not about the number. The number, it's a way of really just thinking about it, getting people to question how much stuff they have and whether it really serves their purpose. I'll start with my backpack. It's a standard weekend size backpack, and I got that used. And then I have a small backpack as well as a day pack. I have a pillow, since I'm traveling a lot right now, this is really great to have. And then as far as clothing goes, I have a total of 13 items of clothing. I have the sweater that I'm wearing, the shirt that I'm wearing, and shorts, and then in my bag I have a pair of pants, another pair of shorts, 2 pairs of underwear, 3 more shirts, and another smaller sweater, and a pair of socks. And then along with that I have my 1 pair of sandals. So this is all of my clothes and my sandals right here, fits into this one bag. As far as my personal care items, I keep things pretty simple. I have a handheld razor for cutting my hair and my beard, and that's hand powered. The little bag that goes inside of. I have a toothbrush, toothpaste, dental floss, some biodegradable soap for hand washing, essential oils, a pair of scissors, a fingernail clipper, some earplugs, my handkerchief, and my body oil. And then the bag that all of my personal hygiene items go into. One of my most important possessions is this pot. This pot serves both for cooking, it serves as a bowl. I can actually take the top off and use that as a plate as well. And it serves for to-go meals when I'm at a restaurant or if I want to bring a meal with me. So this is one of my most multi-purposed items. That's one of the keys to having less, is having items that can be used in many ways. And then a spoon as well. Now I also carry a water bottle. This is just a glass bottle from the recycle bin. And then I carry tea, loose leaf tea, and a tea strainer. This is all of the electronic items that I own. I have a computer, headphones, and then I have my charger. Now, I'm traveling right now in Europe, so I actually have a European charger as well. This is actually an item that I don't own. It's an item that I'm currently borrowing. And a lot of people ask me, how can you be producing YouTube videos and be on social media without owning a camera? And what I do is I simply work with people who are filmmakers, and instead we can work together. I don't have to own a camera in order to be able to use a camera. So no cell phone either. I use my computer for all of my communication, and my cell phone was the last bill that I had. I got rid of that about 5 years ago, and now I have not a single bill or debt to my name. I have currently, all of my money is right here in my hand. It's about $3,700, and I have no bank account, no credit card here, no life insurance, no insurances whatsoever, no life savings, and no, I'm not a trust fund hippie. Actually, I grew up very low income, and there was no savings from my family set aside whatsoever. That's it right there, all of my money. As far as identification, I have my passport and my birth certificate. Those are my only two forms of identification. I carry one book with me, and I swap it out when I'm done with it. I have my bookmark, that counts as a possession. And also on my laptop, there's a sticker, and that counts as a possession as well. So that's included in my current 47 possessions. So that is all the possessions that I own. It is extremely liberating that everything that I own is right here. I don't have anything stored anywhere else. So by living now with everything in my backpack and not having a bank account or credit card or anything anywhere else, being fully present in this moment, what it's done is it's given me a much deeper form of presence. Everything I am, everything I have is right here. I don't have things that are pulling me in all the different directions. One of the early steps that I would take is I would go through my stuff and I would look at it and I would ask myself, have I used this in the last 6 months to a year? And if not, that was a good reason to think that I might want to get rid of it. And that helped me to purge my life of stuff. So one of the biggest benefits of having less stuff is having time to do what I really want. I wanted to spend more time with my friends and family. I wanted to spend more time doing what I loved. People always want to know, what do I do for a living and how do I earn money? So first and foremost, my job is to decrease the amount of money that I need. By living simply and by practicing resourcefulness and critical thinking and problem solving, I need a lot less money in the first place. But I do still live a life with some money. Right now, what I do is I do public speaking. and I've committed to earning less than the federal poverty threshold, which is about $11,000 for an individual. So I earn less than that every year. And 100% of my media income from TV shows, books, things like that is all donated directly to environmental nonprofits. I still absolutely am involved in the monetary system, but my goal is to decrease my involvement. I definitely don't want to paint the picture that life is just rosy and there's no problems whatsoever. This lifestyle certainly has many challenges. However, I think that no matter what lifestyle we choose to live, it has a lot of challenges. Sometimes I'm sleeping outside when it's a lot colder than I would like to be, or I need things that I don't have, so I have to wait days in order to be able to accomplish a task that I want to. So now I'm traveling with everything that I own on my backpack, and at this moment I'm actually staying in a tiny house in southern France. I actually helped to build this tiny house. I am dependent upon other people. I'm staying with other people. For me, some of the deep philosophies that come out through owning few possessions are non-materialism, non-ownership, and non-attachment. So the less stuff that I have, the more it actually forces me to be a part of my community, to spend time with other people, to be of benefit and of service to other people as they are of benefit and service to me as well. So the less that I focus my life on ownership, the more that I focus my life on sharing and on working together as a team. Do I think that everybody should live this way? Absolutely not. But what I do want to do is I want people to rethink their relationship with their stuff. I'm not against owning more possessions. I'm not against having a house, or I'm not against, having the possessions that serve us well. By no means is this me saying that I'm going to live my entire life with just 50 possessions. No, this is just one of my many experiments. And actually one of my goals is to get down to 0 possessions and experience that life for a period of time. Whether I'll ever achieve that, or whether this is the least I'll ever own, only time will tell for that.
If you want to follow Rob on his YouTube channel, I'll put the link in the description below. Also, be sure to subscribe to Exploring Alternatives and check out our playlists for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.
So, I recently sold pretty much everything that I own. Let me explain. Last month, I moved to the city of Philadelphia with the intentions of simplifying my life. I found that as I moved from apartment to apartment in the past few years, that I started to really acquire a lot of stuff. And there's really no other way to put it than just stuff. Multiple blenders, slap chops, Christmas gifts that I got from my uncle 4 years ago, and a number of those as seen on TV items that are supposed to simplify your life. But I found that as I moved around and moved into these new places, that having more stuff didn't necessarily make my life any better. And I noticed that in America especially, we're so materialistic, where we just keep acquiring things. We're one of the only places in the world where we have so much stuff to the point where we have to go and rent storage units somewhere else to store our great uncle's couch from the 1930s that we'll probably never use. So I found that overall, as I started to get more stuff, my quality of life actually started to decrease. And it's not that I've ever had a problem with the quality of my life. I've always been very happy. But I noticed that when I was getting more, my life wasn't getting any better necessarily. And it's difficult to put a measurement on happiness, but I noticed that as I started to scale back when I moved into this new apartment, it really had quite an effect on myself. So this is when I really discovered something called minimalism, which is scaling back the items that you have and really focusing on the things in life that do add value to your life. So in the next few minutes, I want to show you around my apartment, and I want to show you some of the things that I did away with, things that I just found that I don't need, that aren't necessary to improving the quality of my life.
and then also some items that bring joy to my life, some things that I find to be very valuable and useful throughout my everyday life. So let's go do that now. But first, I think we should start this video how every other apartment tour video starts, and that's at the front door. So let's go do that now. Oh, what's going on? So I'll show you around the kitchen a little bit. This is it. You know, this is pretty much all we have here. The first thing you might notice is that I don't really have many appliances, and there's a reason for it. You know, I noticed that people in their lives, they'll have on their kitchen counter, they'll have a toaster, they'll have a microwave, they'll have an oven, they'll have all these different sources of heating something, and I realized that all you really need is just a stove. So this is a gas stove, it's pretty nice, but you know, if I want to heat something up, I just use the stove. I don't need a microwave. I don't need to use a toaster to make toast. I just use a pan, and it really just works out pretty well. At some point next week, we'll make a video about how I end up eating, you know, $30 to $40 of food per week. I'm pretty cost effective when it comes to making food. I make all of my food at home in this kitchen, and one of the best things about it is that I keep the counter very clear. So I don't like having so many different things on there, and it kind of stresses me out in a way where I've been in apartments in the past where there's 6 people and 3 bedrooms, and the kitchen counter is absolutely destroyed. There's like raw chicken everywhere. It's absolutely disgusting. So I like to keep it very simple, very clear, but you'll notice that, okay, I do have a couple of things here, like this blender, for example, but that's because I use it every single day. So this is something that I can't go without. But then there's other items like, say, a coffee pot that I don't really have any use for. Now maybe that's just me being lazy, I'm not quite sure, but usually when I make coffee, I just put some coffee grounds into the cup and drink it like that. You just wait for the coffee grounds to settle. I don't know, does that make me weird? I'm not sure. It might a little bit, but I don't know. That's what I do. All right, so let me show you the living room here. You'll notice that it's pretty simple. And you know, I found that there's a lot of things that I just don't really need, but there's also things that, you know, I'm willing to spend less money on, and then other items that I'll pay more money for. So for example, this couch right here, as far as couches go, it's relatively inexpensive. This is about $400 for this couch, which if you've ever bought sofas in the past you'll know that that's pretty cheap. You can pay $1,000, $2,000 for a sofa, but honestly, it doesn't really make much of a difference to me. I think it's pretty comfortable, and I'm not very picky about it. Maybe that's just because I'm 21 years old and just out of college. I don't really care too much, but I'm pretty satisfied with this purchase, and hopefully I'll have it for the next couple of years. But then you'll notice some things that I will pay a little bit more money for, something like these speakers over here, which I paid a couple $100s for. And you know, some people say, what the hell's going on here? You talk about saving money and then you spend $200 on speakers. But I honestly think that they really make me happy. I love listening to music. I love just blasting music in here. And they're pretty thick walls, so the neighbors don't really care too much, I think. I don't know, I haven't gotten any reports yet. But this TV, you know, I do like watching the news in the morning, usually for the first 30 minutes when I'm eating my breakfast, after I make different types of food. I'll probably put that video out maybe next week about how I really live on $30 to $40 a week on all of my groceries, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. But this TV, I got it from my friend. He was moving to LA and he didn't need it anymore, and he gave it to me, so that's why I have it. I probably would have gotten a smaller one. I think it's kind of a little bit large. It's the only thing that really doesn't really fit this room very well that I don't like as much, but everything else I got for a purpose. And you know, it's nice to have an extra chair in here, I guess, when I have some people over, and I have my little plant friend over here. It's pretty cool. All right, so let me show you my room. You know, I don't have very much in here. A couple reasons for it. I did just move here not too long ago. The only problem with this apartment is that it's a little bit echoey because I don't have very much stuff. But yeah, so this is the room. You know, a bed is the one item that I think is important to pay quite a bit of money for. So I paid over $1,000 for this bed, and some people will say, you're crazy, what are you doing? That's a lot of money. You talk about saving money, right? And you're buying expensive speakers and mattresses that are $1,000. But I really did this for a purpose, because if you look over here, you see this weird looking homemade type desk. And that's because I built that desk when I was 12 years old, and I probably paid $5 in bolts and found the wood laying around my house. So it, like I said earlier, it really does come down to finding the things that do provide you more value. And then this desk, I mean, it's just a slab of wood. I don't really care. You know, you could buy a $1,000 desk and it's still a slab of wood versus a $5 desk, and it gets the same thing done. I mean, I've made thousands of dollars using that piece of wood. But then this bed, I noticed that when I was in high school, I had some pretty bad back problems, and I didn't understand why that was the case. And I thought maybe I was thinking, what's wrong with me? I'm 16, I have these back problems. Turns out I had a bed that was like 25, 30 years old, probably a hand-me-down from a great uncle or something, and it was really bad for me. And that's what ended up messing up my back. So once I got a new mattress, paid more money for it, I realized that that's really, really helpful. And if you're not sleeping well, then you're not going to be thinking well, and you're probably not going to be too happy in life. You're going to be miserable if you have back pain throughout your day. So get a good mattress, and it's going to pay off so much. You don't have to spend thousands on it, but get something that's pretty decent. It goes for pillows as well. Sleep is incredibly important to make sure that you get some good sleep. So there's a couple other things I want to show you actually. One of them is this cookie jar. The reason for this, it's pretty interesting. It's actually a locking cookie jar. And this little device here has made me so much money. And it's kind of sad that it's gotten to this point. But essentially what I do is I take my phone, and I think we're all kind of addicted to our phones in some way, one way or another. So what I do when I'm really trying to be productive, I don't do a lot of work in here. Maybe we'll do some type of office tour later on. But I put my phone in here and I lock it up so you can see the time on there. I don't know if you can see that, but we just crank up the time. Oh wait, that's 5 hours. But I'll usually put it in there for a couple hours and then press the button, counts down from 5, and then it totally locks. So now I'm not gonna be able to get my phone out of here. Even if I tried, I guess I'd have to throw it out the window, but there's no override, and this prevents me from essentially being addicted to my phone. You know, as much as we like to deny it, I think a lot of people spend too much time on their phones, and it's almost to the point where you get that feeling, you start reaching around your pockets, you're like, where's my phone? I need to check my messages. Maybe that's because I'm Generation Z. I don't think I'm a millennial. I was born in '98. I don't know what that makes me. But yeah, so that little cookie jar device really does help me a lot in terms of productivity in my life. And that's what I'm really about, just optimizing things in my life. Now, before we actually started filming this video, I did have papers all over the wall. I put a lot of my goals, I write them down, sticky notes everywhere. You know, some people like paintings in their room, but I like to just kind of throw my ideas up on the wall with papers. But I took those down, you know, it's kind of personal, so I don't really want to go over that entirely. But yeah, so this is my room. Let's go back to the couch just to kind of summarize some things. So let's talk about some of the benefits of what I've been doing and why having less stuff has actually impacted my life in so many ways other than just simplifying it. I think one of the biggest things that it really did for me was it ended up saving me a lot of money. We're talking thousands of dollars. And if you've ever moved into a new apartment or a new home, you'll know that expenses really add up. You might pay $400 for a carpet, you might pay more money for all these different things that you want to have, these materialistic things, and lamps for $100, and it really adds up quite a bit. So I found that by not having all of this stuff, I calculated it out and I found that I saved at least $3,000 or $4,000 by not getting all these different things. So it's much more cost effective, and it's not that I'm cheap, it's not that I don't want to spend the money, it's just that I don't really need to. I don't think it actually improves my life by spending that much more. And with the money that I save from not putting too much stuff in here, I can take that $3,000 or $4,000 and I can go spend it on vacations. I can go to Asia for a month. I can go over to Europe. I can do a lot of traveling, things that I actually do enjoy instead of a carpet that's overpriced. Now, I can also take that money and I can invest it, and I can make that money make me more money that I can then use the money that I made from that money to actually buy furniture with the interest that I made from it. So it's a weird concept, but it really does work in a lot of ways if you can just kind of hold off on some purchases. So financial reasons is something that really does have an impact for myself for this. And like I said, I could probably spend thousands of dollars more on this, but I just don't really want to. But another thing that I did find is that when you're using less stuff, when you have less stuff in your house, it's actually kind of more environmentally friendly as well. I didn't really think about that until after the fact, and I realized how many things, if you're buying a table and then you move out of your house or your apartment a year or two later, you end up throwing it in the dumpster in a lot of cases, or a sofa, you throw it away, and it just kind of creates more waste in society as a whole. And I'm not an eco-freak, I do like to be eco-friendly, but that's just something that I did think about, that I do feel better about it actually by doing that. It's also much easier.
Have you ever asked yourself this question? What is my purpose? With so many opportunities that life has to offer, and all these different jobs and careers, it's quite difficult to decide what we want to do with our lives. Society demands us to make decisions at a very young age about what path we're going to take. Most of the time, children have no clue about what life is like in adulthood and what they want to do when they're grown up. In fact, many adults don't even have a clue. Now, the Japanese invented a philosophy named Ikigai, which stands for reason for being. Ikigai can help us to determine what it is that we want to wake up for in the morning. You know, that very thing that we can pour our heart and soul into. When we're totally immersed in our activities, so much so that nothing else matters, we're in a state of flow. Ikigai helps us to identify the necessary ingredients to get into this flow state and make our pursuits sustainable and useful for the world. Many people work in these jobs they hate. When we do this, the misery that we associate with these activities often creeps up on us on Sunday evenings, when we start to think about this dreadful Monday morning on which we have to drag ourselves out of bed, knowing that we'll spend the next week in hell. When we arrive, we still experience this nostalgia for the weekend, and as soon as we begin with our tasks, we count down to the first break, and then the next, and then the next, until we can finally go home again and repeat the process. Now, this isn't a very enjoyable way to live. Think about it. Doing something we hate is a disservice to ourselves and also to our surroundings, especially when we see other colleagues that actually enjoy what they're doing, and on top of that, they're doing a great job. Again, many people get miserable because of their jobs, which in turn can lead to serious health problems like depression. Some even go as far as killing themselves because they cannot cope with the feelings of uselessness, hopelessness, and this nagging idea that they're failures in life. But we have a certain degree of control over our circumstances. We can try to change our position towards the situation and make our current job more enjoyable. Or we can reassess our own nature and the nature of our surroundings and likely come to the conclusion that it's better to find something different to do. Thus, the change we need to make is twofold. On the one hand, we need to change our mindset. On the other hand, we need to change our circumstances. Because when we do the right things with the right mindset, we're able to enter a state of flow. Ikigai helps us to identify what is the right thing to do for a certain individual. So this person is able to get out of bed in the morning with a sense of purpose and therefore is able to work with almost no effort. Now, Ikigai consists of 4 dimensions. Firstly, we need to pick something that we're good at. Secondly, it must be a thing that we love to do. Thirdly, the world should need it. And lastly, we have to get paid. Let's talk about each dimension separately. 1. Doing what we're good at. Everyone has a different skill set. Some things are based on nurture and some things are based on nature. For a great part, we can learn skills. But we also have inborn characteristics that make different people suitable for different things. For example, we see differences in IQ, motor skills, empathy, physical strength, etc. Oftentimes people focus on improving the things they're bad at. They spend their whole lives repairing themselves while rejecting the things they're naturally good at. So we might want to focus on the latter and improve those skills so we become masters at it. Because why put so much energy into becoming mediocre at best when we have the opportunity to become great? Not to mention how the world benefits from us manifesting our true potential. However, according to the Ikigai philosophy, this should be something that the world needs, which I'll address in a minute. 2. Doing what we love to do. This is very obvious, but it's also a tricky one. While a level of skill can be measured, this dimension is kind of subjective and a bit complicated. For example, you might love to be a full-time YouTube content creator, but there might be some aspects of the process that you don't like at all. You might love editing videos, writing scripts, but hate filming. In this case, filming becomes a bottleneck. Now, we can try to make filming more enjoyable. Perhaps we can change our workflow or go to different locations so we can still be immersed in this task and experience a flow state. Mindset is a key here, and with the right focus, we're able to effortlessly do the tasks that are necessary but that we don't like that much. Of course, outsourcing is an option as well. But when our activities as a whole make us dreadful and we don't see any way to develop a certain enjoyment while doing them, it might be a better idea to find something else to do. Perhaps we're just not interested in this field, or our skills are lacking, which frustrates us. At the end of the day, there's no accounting for taste, so it's probably much easier to just listen to our guts and let intuition decide where to go. 3. Doing what the world needs. It's all great when we have determined what we're good at and what we love to do, but that isn't enough to call it Ikigai, because our activities should, in one way or another, benefit the world. If they don't, it's simply a passion. Luckily, the needs of the world come in many different flavors. Jobs that are looked down upon by some people are often highly important. Someone has to pick up the trash. Someone has to fix our sink. And we wouldn't be able to thrive as a society without people cleaning up the mess. If we find enjoyment in these kind of jobs, that's absolutely terrific. To discover what the world needs, we can simply do some market research to find out the current demands. Or we can look at the world from a wider perspective, asking ourselves how we, with our skill sets, can make it a better place. 4. Doing what generates money. Some argue that money isn't important or shouldn't be a factor. But when we look at reality, we see that money makes the world go round. And without money, we can't pay the bills. So to make our efforts sustainable and truly a reason for being, they must generate income. If not, our activities become more of a hobby. There's nothing wrong with a hobby, of course. However, this also means that we need a job we might not like to pay the bills, and therefore sacrifice the majority of our time and energy for something we're not passionate about and don't see as our life's mission. So we could see money as a form of energy that fuels us in our pursuits. Now we have addressed the 4 dimensions of Ikigai. It's essential to explore how these dimensions relate to each other and how a combination of them form an Ikigai. When we do what we love and what we're good at, we have a passion. But this passion isn't sufficient to be an Ikigai, because it could very well be something that the world doesn't need or is even destructive to our environment. Also, it may not generate money or even cost us money. Yet being passionate about something is part of an Ikigai. Doing what we love and what the world needs, we call a mission. But a mission alone isn't an Ikigai, because we might not be good at it and not earning a dime doing it. Yet seeing our activities as a mission is an ingredient for a reason for being. When we do something that the world needs and what we get paid for, we have found a vocation. But does that mean that we like what we do and that we're good at it? Not necessarily. And that's why a vocation may be something that the world demands and that we do out of a sense of duty, but we may absolutely hate doing it. So a vocation alone isn't an Ikigai. Lastly, doing what we're good at and what we're paid for is called a profession. Does that mean that the world needs it and that we love what we do? Again, not necessarily. Some people hate their profession, and some professions are even destructive to the world. So a profession alone isn't an Ikigai. What makes an Ikigai is the combination of all 4 dimensions. This means that a reason for being includes a passion, a mission, a vocation, and a profession. These are all the ingredients that facilitate us to engage in a worthwhile pursuit that we love to get up for in the morning. And when we love what we do, it's so easy to immerse ourselves in it and get in a state of flow. The secret lies in aligning our own nature with the nature of our environment to establish an optimal interplay between ourselves and our surroundings, so that our pursuit becomes effortless. The Taoists call this Wu Wei, which can be translated as effortless action. It's essential to remember that what we're looking for is not set in stone. Many factors play a role in deciding what our Ikigai is in a constantly changing world. Remaining in that flow state means that we continually need to adapt and fine-tune our position within the whole. Ikigai, therefore, isn't static. It's an active entity that changes with the flow of time. Thank you for watching.
One universe. Four forces. Billions of galaxies. How does it all fit together? Is there a single, overarching design to the cosmos? And if we find it, will we glimpse the mind of God? The highest power is the human mind. So if you want to see a miracle, be the miracle. The miracle. The miracle.